Once I'm resident in France, can I get into the French healthcare system? And does that mean that I'll no longer need my insurance? And if that's the case, follow-up question, if that's the case, can't I just take out insurance to cover me up until I get into the system?
Yes and no. Well, it depends on which part of the question I'm answering, but yes. So actually, I'll answer the last one first because it's important. So it's important to understand that when you show up at the interview, they expect you to be covered for the whole duration of your application. So you're applying for a 1-year visa, you should have a 1-year cover. This is very, very important. So if you come there and say, yeah, I have a 3-month cover, but then after 3 months, I'll be part of the French system, it's an automatic denial. You need to be insured for 1 year. In theory, you also need to have paid for that 1 year. There's also something that's not disclosed on the official website, because when you show up at the interview, you need to show what they call proof of full payment. It's probably translated from French directly, but then you need to have paid everything up front in full. Because then they know, the French government know that you've secured something that will cover you for the 1 year, and then you're not a burden on the French state. Obviously, in real life, they do accept if you go with a policy that's compliant with their requirements and you have a policy that's on installments, they'll be fine with it. Although they would still expect you to show up with a proof of payment. So you need to have paid something, enough proof of that payment before you show up at the interview. This is a very important step because many insurers aren't aware of this, and many insurance companies are not capable of doing that, although they do have compliant plans. So sometimes this is a very critical thing. Sometimes you have to actually have the plan in place before you actually move to France, which basically you're paying for a couple of months for nothing. So yeah, this is a tricky thing. So no, you cannot only apply for 3 months, but some policies will allow you to cancel the plan. Some insurance companies will allow you to cancel the plan if you're, for example, on installments, and let's say 6 months into your expatriation, you're accepting into the French system. So, well, many policies will accept that you can cancel it and then, switch to like a top-up health insurance or something like that. Because it's still not being insured is technically non-compliant as well. You're just being on the French system, the bare French system, I would say, it's non-compliant. You need to have French system plus a top-up, then it's compliant, or private medical insurance. But having nothing but the French system is non-compliant as well. So when you'll apply at the prefecture, for example, then it would be a rejection too. So, but back to the original question, once I'm a resident, can I get into the French healthcare system? Yes, definitely yes. You need to wait 3 months until you can start the process. This is Richard's side of the assistance as well, can help with that. But so you need to wait for 3 months. So the first 3 months, you just go to the beach, whatever, you relax. And once you nicely tucked in into your new home, then you can start. And actually, there are two things that you need to, there is a lot of confusion around that. There are two processes that are, although they are like intertwined, they're not done automatically one with another. It's two separate applications. The first is Social Security application, which we call the CPAM, so CPAM application. The second one is residency application. These two are linked. You can't really have one without the other. But, for example, if you start application into, for residency, so at the prefecture, and you haven't started with CPAM, at some point you'll get stuck in the process because, it's not automatic. It's not because you're a resident that you'll get covered by CPAM and vice versa. Obviously, alongside the process, at some point they'll ask for, do you have the French Social Security number? And obviously you don't because you haven't started, but no, that's why they are intertwined. But it's important to make sure you start both ASAP. Obviously there is an order, but it's just to say it's not automatic. Again, Richard can help with both of these things. But these are two processes, not just the one. And so you can get into the French system and eventually you will no longer need the private insurance, health insurance. On average, what's the situation? That you do need the insurance for the first year. Most of the time, you're insured for the first year. And from year 2, you can switch to a top-up health insurance. It's just because there is, like Richard say, all these things then will take place in the prefecture, which is vary massively depending on where you're applying, who you're applying with. Varies massively. But on average, it's very hard to secure CPAM numbers before 6 months. It's more like 9 to 12 months to secure this.
Yeah, so to get your social security number and get your cut retail, which is like the healthcare card, that can really be a process, can't it? I remember mine took ages.
Also very important. A letter from the systems saying that you've been accepted, for example. Okay. So it's not enough yet to cancel the policy. You need to have the actual, even if it's a temporary number, some insurance policies can cover you on temporary numbers, but you need to have the permanent numbers, so the social security numbers, not just a letter. The difference between permanent and temporary is just that when you are on temporary numbers, you do not have access to that thing we call the teletransmission, which is basically the automatic refund of the claims. So it's just once you're on temporary numbers, you have to manually process any claims, which is fine. It's just manual process and it's slower. But then once you have the permanent numbers, then everything's automatic, including refunds from the top-up health insurance.
Yeah, I remember that actually when I moved to France, I had a temporary social security number before they then issued the permanent social security number. So it's a good thing for people to be aware of. And while we're on the subject, is that something that you can also help with people with that top-up insurance if they do choose to stay in France?
Well, hopefully they will. Yes.
Great. Well, it's for people to know that they can make that transition as well from having that initial.
Yeah, no, of course. And very important to note as well is that unlike the private although technically speaking, this is a private medical insurance as well, the top-up health insurance. Actually, private insurance doesn't, apart from the visa, but it's for expats, but it's not really a thing in France. If you ask any French citizen about private health insurance, they don't even know about it. It's not something we do in France because the top-up health insurance, so it's more like a foundation. So, it's what they call an association usually. Most insurance companies, obviously, you have the AXA and Swiss Life and Aviva, which are private companies. But many companies, that's why we call that mutual, because they're more like foundations. And so non-profits.
Building societies.
Yeah?
In the UK. Just like building societies.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so basically, we can help with that, definitely. It's important to note that, unlike the private medical insurance, there is no medical questionnaire with this. Never. There, even whatever they're private or not, there is no medical questionnaire. So if the Social Security pays for something, we'll top it up.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.